Ghazi, thank you for coming. Thank you for joining this podcast. This is you're the first guest I ever had. I wanted to make this one that gives a lot to the audience and that creates a big added value to the people that they are listening. And that's why I created this B2B marketing podcast for this printed electronics and for clean tech. Tell us something about you. What do you do? Who you are?
I got into digital marketing quite late, only a couple of years ago. However, the firm I'm with, Webology, was started by my partner and brother-in-law 13 years ago in Dubai. So he started a digital agency there, and then just started doing websites and whatnot, and then quickly kind of progressed and evolved into providing SEO and PPC services, since that's what clients were asking for. It was more of a pull rather than a push. They wanted to start making use of their websites, as more of a digital business than just a digital billboard. And so we later expanded to Australia here, kind of at the same time that I moved here to Australia from Dubai to Perth. And we got set up over here and immersed ourselves into the Aussie market, so to speak. But, as you can see, because I'm talking to you, you're all the way in Europe, I'm in Australia. We have clients around the world. COVID changed a lot. Whereas before, a face-to-face meeting was absolutely necessary. Today, it's not. You can get a lot of trust based on searching people up online. And something we promote in our clients to show online is trust, right? Show the reviews, quotes, give references, case studies, and whatnot. And that same kind of evolution from a digital billboard to digital business has helped us all trust each other more. When we have, let's call it, shared sources of information, whether it's Google reviews, whether it's Clutch, Trustpilot, whatever you use, the crowd, not always right, but more often than not, they are. So
this is so true. Like since the COVID started, I just completely changed the relationship with clients, and I've been in Czech Republic, and then I started to have clients from the US, and it was working so great, could do it. A lot of people actually started their businesses during COVID, from their garage and from their room, in the parents' house, So
yeah, it's kind of like we compressed, almost maybe not a decade, but at least several years of technological progress in and over COVID, because we had no choice but to do it, right? So it kind of compressed everything. So, although it was, this kind of global calamity or whatever, there was a lot of positives that came out of it, if you want to look on the bright side of things.
Let's go to SEO. What is it? Let's give us basic, because people say SEO, and I spoke with the people saying, are we paying for some SEO? And we don't know why we are paying for that. What is it bringing to us? And their website looks really bad, like from 90s. So, like, what is it?
Yeah, get your website and your business ranked higher on Google. All right. The websites that are at the top of the list are the ones that are most relevant to the term you're looking for. So, we're looking for whatever. It could be absolutely anything. It could be, web design, or it could be any kind of widget, or, I know you guys are involved a lot in clean tech. So it can be something as specific as, red light bulbs, for example, for red light, or it could be printable electronics. Okay. So how do I go about finding that? You go and search for something on Google, and a lot of people have quite basic and broad search terms. Okay. And it's Google's job to interpret that and feed you the most relevant result, right? That's why Google is what it is today. That's why they're just dominating everything, right? Because it does give you the most relevant result. And in order for you to be at that top level, you have to perform something called search engine optimization. Okay. You have to make sure your website has the right keywords, and keywords are the words what you do. So if you produce printable electronics, for example, you want that in and on your website, and you want it in a nice, helpful, unique, contextual way. You don't want to just sit there and blast, printable electronics a million times. It doesn't work anymore. It used to work like that, So in a nutshell, it's kind of like a library. right? So you go to a library and then you ask the librarian, hey, where's the world history section? And she sends you over there to the world history section, and then you start looking at it like chronologically. SEO, I mean, at a very, very rudimentary rate, is kind of like that, where it's trying to get you indexed for the right place and on the internet.
Tell me one thing. You just said like Google don't like SEO. Google don't like that you put a bunch of keywords in there, and at the same time, I seen that Google don't like ChatGPT generated content. So what is it that Google actually likes? What will rank you the best?
Look, you have to go back from, let's say, the beginning of, it doesn't mean Google hates SEO. They actually work with SEOs, you know what I mean? Pointing us, saying this is what's considered good SEO, this is what's considered bad SEO. They know it's a fact of life. They wish it wasn't, all right? And there's a reason why, because, sometimes depending on if the algorithm's doing its job or not, sometimes when you search for something, sometimes it's junk, right? It's just people who game the system and they're at the top and you're like, the first 3, 4, 5, 6 results, you're like, this is not relevant. This is just garbage, right? It's just a content farm, right? And so they have to work to try and push those sites out and actually give you, the user, something useful, right? The algorithm started, how they first came about was they came out with a way to rank websites, and that was based on backlinks. So how many websites are linking to your website? Okay, that's was the very first algorithm that they came up with, Google. Sergey, Larry Page, and Sergey Brin. That's how they started in '97, right? They formed an algorithm around it. They invented like the little so-called crawlers to go crawl the internet, and then find and count the backlinks, and then categorize the backlinks. Based on the keywords, who's linking to you, right? And then so you have all these kind of keywords linked websites based on whether it's a news site or this site, and they're using certain words to link to yours, and then it ranked you based on that. And it worked really well. It worked so well. We all forgot. Remember Yahoo? Remember Excite? Remember Alta Vista? I mean, depending how old people are now, maybe some of them don't even remember life before Google. But that's why Google won, right? Because they came up with that kind of killer algorithm. And then what happened was people gamed it. So I went and would start, like, not me personally, but this is what people would do. In '97, obviously, I was still in high school. But what people would do at the time is they create these content farms. They just create tons of websites, all right? Write a few keywords on them and link them to the site that they want to rank high. And if you did that, boom, you're number one, right?
And I remember
it was really easy to rank. You could really easy. So then Google's like, oh shit. I don't know if we can swear on this podcast. You can follow that. Well, oh shoot. So
you can do whatever you want here.
Awesome, we're free. And then they'd have to switch the algorithm. They'd have to tweak it, saying, okay, now we can't just rank it based on backlinks. We have to put a couple other factors in, right? And they keep adding different factors and changing it, or they'll put like a Google smackdown, meaning if they find pages that are using these techniques, these stuffing with a bunch of keywords on the site, just writing the same thing, creating a bunch of websites that you own and they're all garbage websites and linking to you. These are kind of red flags for Google, and then they'll penalize your site, right? And as SEOs, what we're asking ourselves is, what is Google's algorithm looking for, and how do I tweak what I'm doing to beat the algorithm so I can get ranked at the top? That is what every SEO is goal, and that's what they're thinking. And Google is trying to change the algorithm every time we quote unquote figure it out. And then it's just this race where it goes, because man, being at the top, it means a lot. There's a recent stat, I think by Ahrefs.com. It's an SEO tool, but 91% of all websites on earth have zero traffic. Nobody visits them.
Wow. Really?
So it gives you an idea of how many websites are out there, because you think, oh, every website I've been to has traffic, right? You know what I mean? No, like 91% of the websites out there get zero traffic. So you can look at that from our point of view, as digital marketers, as an opportunity, right? But also you can also look at that at how hard it is, right? Not everybody can afford to do SEO. Even not everyone can understand to do it themselves, even if they wanted to, because it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, this is interesting. You said no, not everybody can afford it. What is it, like some budget solution? Let's say you are starting in a garage, new company, you invented this super revolutionary microchip, but you don't have money to put some serious campaign. What is it you can do tomorrow?
Look, for online, what you can do tomorrow, obviously, is you can do the very basics of SEO. So if you don't have to be that smart to do SEO. I know SEOs are like some more technical big ones will be like, no, of course you do, but you can learn it yourself, right? You don't have to go through a special course. You can go on YouTube, look at a bunch of DIY videos, and you can start doing the basics, right? Now, where you might run into problems between a novice and an actual company doing it is you have to dedicate all your time to it, right? You have to sit
Yeah.
there and then start working on page, off page, and we can get into what those mean later. But you have to do a lot of manual work, right? A ton of it, right? And not just manual work in the sense of like grunt work, but there's a lot of research involved, right? If let's, for the lack of a better example, a printable electronics company, right? You got to go do a bunch of research on it and then find keywords, and not just keywords, but keywords that are relevant. So you, as that company, are sitting there saying, okay, I got to create content that people might find interesting. Now, they have no idea printable electronics even exists. So how do I find something that's interesting and I get me ranked on Google for people to find me, right? That's the secret sauce, right? That's what's not so easy, right? That's where these companies, these startups, clean tech, whatever they're into, have to kind of use their creative juices, right? To sit there and say, how can I explain this in a way that helps people, right? Without getting stuck in the weeds. Like, for example, crypto for many years got stuck in the weeds. There, people go, oh, this is how the blockchain works. Nobody cares how the blockchain works. They just, nobody asks
That's so
Visa,
true.
how does
That's
the
so
credit card
true.
work? I just want to know that Visa's accepted. I don't care how it works, right? And
Mm.
crypto jumps straight into like, this is how the blockchain works, and it goes over everybody's head, and they're like, man, we don't care, right? That's why, uh, you know, not that I'm a crypto bro or anything. That's why, let's say, the only explainable thing in crypto was like NFTs, right? It's this little digital thing that it's yours, and you can use it all around the internet, and forget how it works. It's just yours, right? So uh, that's kind of the same thing that we're talking about here. So in order to explain printable electronics, instead of talking about the mechanism, which a lot of tech companies get into, not just anybody, any kind of tech company, they have all the graphics and videos. This is how it works. This is what we're doing. This is the mechanism behind it. Most people don't care. Tell me how it solves my problem, right? Tell me how it makes the world a better place. Make a nice,
Yeah,
cool story about it, and
yeah, that's
people
exactly
will
what we
find you.
are. That's what we are exactly running into. Yeah, like every time we design a website, like a lot of this bench of technical data, but there are also like a customers that they go into the like engineers that they need to find out if this company will be their future provider, and then if they can work with them, because I don't know, there may be some new battery system and it has completely wrong voltage, yeah, which will not work with their system mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
uh, I mean, it's kind of like, yeah, it solves the
There's a
problem, but
place. There's a place for the tech.
there are different like buyer personas at the time during the like the buying journey. Yeah, that it's like a technician, that it's a buying manager, and then it's a decision maker. So it's a little bit different, I would say, than somebody buying your or mine service. That it's like a decision maker, it's one person, and then we go, like it or not, and
Yeah, there's
starting.
a place for all the technical information, right?
Mm.
There's definitely a place for it. And if that's who your market is, it's purely technical and how it works. You don't care about anybody else. Then you got to produce content like that. So the easiest way to do SEO, if you have no budget, is to create content around it. Like, it doesn't have to mean TikTok or videos. No, it means like a great blog post, right? A
Mm.
great blog post, you don't have to do any SEO work on it. Google will do it all for you, right?
Okay.
If you write a nice, unique, relevant post that's helpful to somebody, especially like Google, their last major update was called helpful content, but that is truly helpful, something that you read and you're like, oh, okay, awesome, right?
Mm.
If you're writing that kind of stuff, all right, Google will push you up. It'll start ranking your article, right? Because it's actually great and useful. You don't have to do a thing, right? Now, it's not easy to create that content, right? You can't do it every day, okay? But you could put in the time. If you don't have the budget, you could put in the time to do it, and then you could dedicate a few hours a week to sit there and create one post a week, maybe. You know what I mean? And then just be consistent at it. Provide value to whoever you're trying to provide value. They'll find you, right? So that's in my long-winded answer for saying, like, if you don't have the budget for SEO, create some kind of content.
So I would say, if you don't have budget for SEO, let's write article once a week for a year. and you will get some traction from Google.
You will. Absolutely. Now, most people give up after a couple posts. Like, I don't want to put a number on it, but the vast majority of people, whether it's a company, whether it's something, okay, the people who stick with it, have made businesses off it. There's these bloggers, right? There's a whole community that's all they do, right? They, a guy running, the world's best blog about, I don't know, whatever, calculators or whatever it is, okay? Probably doesn't know a thing about it, right? But they came out with a content plan. They knew, okay, this is in demand or whatnot. And then they put it together and then they just posted consistently good content, right? And then they got 50 posts up there. Then the next year they got another 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever it is. And then it just starts compounding, right? It's on the internet forever, right? And if it's useful, it'll start compounding, right? And then especially if the article is kind of evergreen or whatnot, it's a fantastic way to do it. But you just have to stick with it. You have to sit there and say, okay, pre-plan it. Don't sit there and then just sit there and like, yeah, I'm going to come up with an idea next week and then I might do it. No, you pre-plan it, separate your research from your writing. Never do it at the same time. Okay. Dedicate a block for research, then a block for writing, and then a date that you have to deliver it by. Put it as like a project delivery or deliverable, sorry. And treat it as important as you do anything else, right? Because you can have the greatest product in the world, but if nobody knows about it, then what good is it?
Yeah. Yeah, we do something like that with these snippets that we create some nice custom-made things in Webflow. And in order not to lose it, we just publish a blog about it so we can read it in the future and replicate it. We do it for us, but it starts to have some traction, Suddenly we have thousands of visits because of one article. It's interesting, really.
Look, it definitely is. It definitely is. You know what I mean? It'll be interesting to see where it goes. Obviously, now that kind of content can be mass produced, so we could see what happens. But I said, in a nutshell, there's a lot of things going that are difficult for these startups, right? They don't have promotion, they have poor SEO, they don't have a great user experience. They're in a very niche industry. They have tough competition. They don't have any brand recognition. Limited resources, like you said. So a lot of these things can be addressed by SEO, but if you don't have the budget, it's content.
There is one thing I know we have it further line, ChatGPT, and I see a lot of people are cutting the corners with ChatGPT can write my blogs, and on the other hand, it's like Google will block the ChatGPT generated content. How we are doing that?
Look, ChatGPT can be very useful. All right, it's awesome. I love it. Right? Okay, it can actually be very useful. But there is this kind of, I guess, urban legend or myth out there that it can do everything for you, which it cannot. Right? It's mostly people who have not used it or not used it properly. Let's say. That sit there and claim, oh yeah, it can do all this for you, right? Like, let's say the easiest thing, like you said, like a blog article, right? Now, ChatGPT is awesome for coming up with a blog title or a content, let's call it, outline. Okay, so you want to write, about your brand new, light bulb, okay, and how it's going to change the world. Okay, you want a nice, catchy title, right? You go to ChatGPT, it'll give you, 10 nice, cool titles, right? It's really good at that. It'll give you a great content outline, right? How do you write your story? Because it is a story. Everything's a story, right? You know what I mean? Whether you like it or not, no matter how technical you are, you're telling a story. So it gives you a great outline, and that is 100% awesome on ChatGPT. Now, writing the blog itself, it's awful, right? It's very dry, very academic. It's probably, or definitely, based on the kind of examples we've run on it and the tests we've run on it, it's not really keyword driven either, even though it says it might be. There's like, hey, give me a keyword focused on this keyword blog article. It's not relevant because remember, number one, it's not connected to the internet, right? So it doesn't know really what's trending right now. It can't search, go through the SERPs and search everything, right? It can't, sit there and do a backlink analysis and all these other things that you look for when you look for at different websites and different keywords. So there's a place for it, right? So certain tasks it can do really well, right? You can use it obviously, to help you, like I just said, titles and outlines. Another thing that it helps you with is meta descriptions. So a meta description is, so when you go on Google and you search for, let's just call it, a smart light bulb, okay? And when your company pops up, it'll be that kind of, the title, it's your company's name, like in blue, and then that text right below it, you're describing it. So, because when you're going through the search results, you have seconds, right? So as people are reading, okay, that's the company name and that's what they do, right? What they do is called the meta description, right? Okay, that is a place where all SEOs focus on. It's not just random. When you look at it, at least for really good sites that are ranking, it's not random. There's a lot of work put into that. ChatGPT is pretty good at that, right? You don't take it word for word, but you have a good meta description and you have a good idea, but you only have so many words. So it's good at sitting there and you typed your word out, or you typed your let's call it sentence, that's how long it is, dump it in a ChatGPT and say, hey, lower this to 156 characters, without losing context. And it'll do it, and it helps you iterate much quicker than your brain can, right? So that's another thing that it's great for. Proofreading, it's awesome, right? It beats anything else out there. It really does. It's great at it. So you can proofread it. You can ask it certain questions and it can explain something in an engaging way, and you can give it a personality, right? But then again, these are specific use cases where you and ChatGPT work together, right? Because what we're finding is, the duo, the team, the kind of team effort is where it shines, right? If you're just going in there, giving some basic prompts and then just dumping it onto your site, you're going to be disappointed, right? And good SEO takes a while. Really shitty SEO just doesn't go anywhere, and you won't know for months that it's just a waste of time. So it's kind of a double-edged sword when it comes to using ChatGPT for SEO.
That's the next chapter, yeah. Like the objections to SEO, and the first, it takes too long, and people don't see it after 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 months.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, the quickest I've ever had, I think we've mentioned this before offline, was somebody asked me the next day, and then I told you it was obviously my fault for not explaining. I thought I did a good job explaining what SEO was, and they called and said, hey, I haven't gotten any inquiries yet. And before I, went into a huge spiel, I was like, oh, you know what? That's my fault. I didn't explain it to you properly. Here, let me come over and explain it to you better than all the presentations and videos and everything that I tried to do. So yeah, it does take a long way. It's not a quick fix. You can do some small, quick wins. Let's say technically, if your website has no SEO, or it's actually has bad SEO, like somebody came in and broke it for you, you can break your site kind of with bad SEO. But it takes time. It really does take time. It does take months and months to actually do good SEO, because it's a never-ending process, right? So if you remember how I explained how search works earlier, where how Google first, they started saying, okay, we're just going to look at backlinks and then keywords, and then people gained that, then they started adding different keywords, and they started looking at meta titles and meta descriptions, and then they start looking at your sitemap, and then on and on and on, right? They started adding more and more factors, and they did it. So since there's so many ranking factors that Google has, and they change the rules for these ranking factors so often, right? Okay, it's hard at first to get your site ranked, right? Google has a budget where they crawl the whole internet. It's called like a crawl budget, and they crawl the whole internet. They go to your site, my site, everybody's site, and then they start saying, okay, this is what the site is about, right? If it has poor SEO, it doesn't know what your site's about, so it's not going to rank it. It's saying, obviously, these guys are not serious. We, Google, can't serve our customers an unserious site, or a site that doesn't have a lot of authority, right? Because then our product, Google's product, would be mediocre, it'd be bad. People would not use us anymore. So you have to continuously, SEO is like this, like forever process. You have to always do keyword research. You have to create content. You have to build links, and you have to do technical optimization on your website, right? And you're doing that because you're not just trying to rank and have saying, hey, Google, notice me, notice my site. You're trying to beat your competitors, because all your competitors are doing the same thing, right? So if all of you are going for the same word, right? What are the chances if you have a small budget, that you're going to beat a guy that has 10 times your budget? It's pretty much zero.
Yeah, I was reading this case study about HubSpot, that they are generating tremendous amount of content to beat up everybody else. They are using like 37.5% of their revenues into their marketing. Like that's a beast, isn't it?
Yeah, HubSpot is when it comes to content, they're the kings. You know what I mean? Hate them, love them, whatever. These guys, like, if you're searching for something online, especially in the last few years, they'll pop up first, right? And even when they have comparison to their competitors, you know, let's say other CRMs or whatever, they have really good articles about their competitors, and they're not totally shitting on them. They're saying, oh, you know, so and so, like, ClickUps is pretty good, and it's this and it's this and this, but HubSpot's a little better. Okay. You know what I mean? And it costs the same, or just a little bit more, right? So they're not really writing negative things, even about their competitors. Okay. But it's a smart way, obviously, because they can sit there and, let's say they're, you know, writing an article so they can organically pop up first before ClickUps, right? They're going to use the keyword ClickUps, you know, a lot, right? In that article, writing pretty positive things about it, you know, pros and cons and whatnot. Okay. And trying to get that search query, you know, so when I search for ClickUp CRM, you know, it might be the ClickUp ad, and it might be ClickUp next, right? But right below that, there's probably a HubSpot article, right, about it. So they're awesome at content. They're really, really good at it.
Yeah, but they are not like because they wrote one article, they are not about the
No.
ClickUps. What's the behind it? That's the amount of articles?
Yeah, the amount of articles, and they are well-written articles, right? This isn't AI crap, right? They're really useful. Okay. I've read over the years a bunch of great HubSpot articles, right? I'm not a user of HubSpot, but I read a bunch of great ones, right? And it offered me value. It told me how to do this or how to do that, you know. They have a lot of tutorials, how to do this and how to do that, just general, not just on HubSpot specific tools, on other tools, how to do, you know, how to write a great blog post. You know, I think I read that years ago. They have an awesome one, and they tell you how they write blog posts. HubSpot tells you how they write blog posts. Right now, they have a huge army of content creators and writers, and they have a system for it and everything like that. So you might not beat them at their specific game that they're trying to win, especially organically, but you can learn a lot just from their digital marketing and how they go about it, especially the content marketing that they do. They're an awesome case study. Yeah, they're killing it.
Cool. How long they should be the blog posts? Is there some minimum?
It's controversial. So I don't know where this started. It was kind of an urban myth, I guess, that said, oh, you have to have 2,000 words, right?
Yeah.
And Google's come out many times saying, no, you don't have to have 2,000 words. And the people didn't just kind of make it up. They just kind of said, all right, let's rank all these blog posts, right? And then we'll rank them, you know, based on words and then their popularity, right? You know, how many clicks are they getting? And it's just, you know, people found that, okay, 2,000 seems to be the sweet spot, right? And if you look at statistics from year to year, you know, like current blogging statistics, you can find the sweet spot is, you know, like 1,000 to 2,000, depending on what the article is about, right? It's the word count has gotten a little bit lower over the years because content has exploded. You know, there's, you know, kind of AI writers to help you out instead of 6 hours. You know, like I said, when a writer works with AI, they can shorten it to, you know, 4, 3, maybe 2 hours. You can have something decent. You know what I mean? When you're getting the outlines and it's helping you, and then it's helping you proofread and whatnot. So people are just writing slightly shorter articles than they were before. But the whole 2,000 thing is kind of a myth. You know, but it's also a way for people who create content, you know, like we do, to price it. You know, you do it based on word count, pretty much. The more words you put in, the more effort, the more research and whatnot.
But there is something like very short articles. If you create a lot of articles, but they are each of them like 300 words or 500 words, just, hey, this just happened, you know, in our company, blah blah blah, and post it there. Like, would that work?
Yeah, there is a place for that, right? Now, how many people will find that useful is what you should think about when you want to write something that's 300 words, right? Are you just announcing something, or what are you doing, right? Are you providing value to the person who's reading it? You know, sometimes in 300 words, that's a little hard. Sometimes it's possible, right? It depends. what you're doing, right? Sometimes it is possible, but usually it's not. Usually, especially, there's so many tutorials out there and they're really popular. How to do this, how to do that. You know what I mean? Doesn't matter what you're doing, from how to build a website to, how to grow tomatoes in my garden, right? And then it goes step by step and it has the screenshots and it's explaining it and you're going through it. And that somebody's on the other end that did this and that they're an expert. You feel comforted, right? You're like, this expert, I'm taking it from this expert, and since it was ranked really high on Google, and it might even have like buttons or reviews, right? That the crowd's giving to it. So you have that level of trust.
Cool. Then it's a next question. Do I have to do it forever?
Oh, it's kind of like what we were saying, is it monthly or not? Look, you don't have to do anything.
The same question, yeah. Why do I have to do it monthly and forever?
Yeah. You don't have to do it forever. Now, the way it's been structured monthly was to help split the cost. Like, let's say for us, we offer true monthly SEO in the sense of, our clients can leave us at any time, right? There's other people that offer monthly, but lock in for 12 months. All right. And there's also other people that, conduct something called sprints, right? They'll do an SEO sprint. And what that means is, okay, here you're going to pay me, a lump sum upfront. And then in 3 months time or 4 months time, I'm going to deliver to you this many links, this many blog posts, or content or whatever it is. And I'm going to fix your on page. Okay. And then they deliver that. And then you say, okay, then the next step is I'm going to do this, this, and this, right? It's just a different way of pricing it, to be honest. But the reason why, I mean, obviously, since, I have an SEO company, I'm biased towards this, you kind of have to do it forever until there's some other thing that comes about on how to discover, websites. And the discovery process is difficult, right? I just told you about the whole ranking process and how Google does it. It's difficult. You know what I mean? If you don't do anything on your site, then you might be one of the 90% of sites in the world that nobody visits. If you do a little, you might get there. You might get a teeny bit of traffic. But if you're stuck on, even on page 2, right? Not many people go past page 1, right? Not many people go past the first 3 search results. And if you want to stay up there, you have to be consistent. And
there is this joke like, if you want to hide something on Google, put it to the page 2.
That's like an old SEO meme.
I think you told me
true,
that,
right? Yeah, it really is. It's you have to understand also, we're all just playing Google's game, right? And Google, love them or hate them, they spend vast amount of resources, to run this. Search is not easy. Search is really difficult, right? I told you earlier that they crawl the entire internet. That takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of computing power to crawl it and index it, right? That's why nobody else has really gotten it. That's why even internal search on different tools is difficult. Like, look at Twitter. They had a whole fiasco when Elon Musk took over Twitter, right? And he's like, I'm going to fix the search. Because if you've ever tried using search on Twitter, it's garbage, right? It's not good. You don't really find anything you're looking for, right? And especially because it's second to second. I mean, kind of like Google, but in a micro way. And he brought in, these like, some hotshot guy, the guy that the first guy to jailbreak an iPhone, really smart dude. He's like, I'm gonna come in and solve it in 10 days. And then, or a few months, sorry, he didn't say 10 days, but he left after 10 days. He's like, no, this is unsolvable. There's a reason why Google is what it is. And Google can do all of this, index the whole internet, crawl it, rank it, and it can give it to you in seconds, right? Microseconds, sorry. Like, it's just instant. No one else can do that, right? So if you want to be there, yes, you probably will have to do it forever until something else happens. I mean, nothing's forever, of course. Our planet isn't even forever, right? So, but yeah, you're gonna have to do it a long time, as long as you want to be on there, right? Or you just get really good at creating content.
All right, next question. It's, what other marketing strategies? Like, is it forever? Is it expensive? We are gonna pay for it all the time. So why we don't just run the ads?
Yeah, you could. So, I mean, it's different. Ads are expensive, right? I mean, SEO, you are paying for it. They say a lot of people call SEO traffic free traffic, but if you're paying an SEO, it's not really free. You know what I mean? SEOs like to say that free organic traffic, but the client's like, oh, hang on, I'm paying you. That's not free, right?
Yeah,
We
exactly.
like to
Yeah.
say that. It's like it's a marketing gimmick. It really is. So PPC does have the quickest return on investment, right? It's really good. But another kind of evil thing that Google does is, you know, a lot of people run their own Google PPC campaigns for themselves, and they use a lot of the presets. And unfortunately, Google has all these like little brackets saying recommended, recommended, you know. And then you're thinking, yeah, of course, you know, I'll just follow what Google says, right? Because you know they want my ad. Google's purpose, especially like I guess since they went public, is to maximize its own revenues. All right, we're not going to have any kind of dreams that it's not anything else other than that, right? You know, they used to have their tagline "Don't be evil" or something like that. You know, then they got rid of it. It's to maximize their revenues. When you use Google PPC and Google Ads, and if you're doing it yourself, it's maximizing their revenue at your expense. And I'm not trying to badmouth them or come up with a conspiracy. You ask anyone that knows how to run ads, that's the case. So like for us, when we take on a client, we turn off all the presets. Turn off all the presets. We never talk to anybody from Google because we've done it before. We've done it for a decade, and it's just it's been awful, right? You know, so you do it yourself because there's all these little tricks that are kind of hidden in there that you have no idea about. What, you know, I'm in Australia. Why is my ad showing up in Saudi Arabia, right? Well, because you didn't turn off. You had location on, right, for your little business in Australia, but you didn't have interest off. Somebody in Saudi Arabia showed interest, right, in
Oh
your
yeah.
company, and you're like, what? Okay, now that doesn't make sense, right? But it's you know, it's kind of a trick. So, but when you do know what you're doing, and it really doesn't take a lot. You know, I tell people that don't have the budget for PPC, and they're like, I'm like, there's a few YouTube videos out there. They'll tell you all this. You could do pretty well. It'll give you a quick ROI, but it is expensive, especially if you are in a very a competitive and crowded industry. You know, you're not going to be paying $1 a click. You might be paying $10, $30 per click, right? Depending
Yeah.
what you're doing, you know, and that's click, not a sale, right? You know what I mean? They're clicking, maybe they're buying, maybe they're not, right? So it gives you a quick ROI, and that's ads, right? Another great one is social media. It's the same thing, kind of social media marketing. It's just buying ads, but on the social media platforms. There's a big difference, obviously, from buying ads on Google or social media. When you buy ads on Google, you're targeting people that are hot. You know, if somebody, you know, to go back to the light bulb, if someone's looking for a smart light bulb, right? They go on Google and they look smart light bulbs. That means they're looking for a smart light bulb. Maybe they want to know about it. That's possible. Or they might want to say, best smart light bulb. Where can I buy a smart light bulb? Right? That person is quote unquote hot. They want to buy, right? So you want to push your ad towards them. Whereas on Facebook or Instagram, it's kind of random, right? You're scrolling and the ad flies by you. You don't go to Facebook or Instagram to really do anything other than just kind of scroll, right? You know, and see what everybody's doing and, you know, see what's going on, right? You know, looking at whatever, you know, content you want to look at, right? And then those kind of ads are like by chance. Like, so I'm scrolling, I'm looking at, you know, whatever cat photos or, you know, models in bikinis, and then, oh, smart light bulb. Oh, yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe not. And then you keep going on, right? Whereas on Google, I'm looking for it. I'm hot, right? And then Google charges you for the click, and all the social, they charge you for the impression. So if I just saw that smart light bulb ad, the smart light bulb company has to pay me. Sorry, not pay me, pay Instagram or Facebook, right? Doesn't mean it doesn't work. The ads work, right? There's a reason why, you know, I mean, what Facebook, I forgot what percentage of the revenue is from ads. I don't know, you know, I'm not even going to make it up. It's the vast majority is ads. It might be 90%, right? So they do work, right? It's just, you kind of have to know where to put what, you know what I mean? And then it gets really good at targeting. The next one, probably I'd say related to social media, influencer marketing, right? So you pay an influencer. You see it all the time now, right? I remember in the beginning, you'd think, is this an ad or is it not? You know what I mean? And then it got really obvious with crypto, right? You know, Kim Kardashian talking about like some shit coin, and then you're like, is she really
Oh,
a user
McAfee.
of this?
You remember McAfee? Like he was shilling all the time, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like you have all these characters, right? And then, but it works. It
Yeah.
works, right? You know what I mean? You know, now it's a hit or miss. You know, you could get some minor influencer, and then they'll like, you know, display your product or whatever. But for specifically for people like in the niche that you operate in, which is, the tech world and startups and clean tech, influencer marketing, I don't think so. You know what I mean? It doesn't, maybe somebody else has some great ideas. I don't know. I don't, right? There's also email, which is probably best bang for buck marketing you can find, right? Up there with your kind of content marketing. Whereas, if you're able to collect the emails, from your site or for wherever, you can go to a collection agency, you can email them, and the cost is your time, of course. But email actually has probably, and I might be wrong on this, probably has the best conversion rate out of any kind of method of marketing. It's probably the best conversion rate, and I know everybody's been trying to get rid of email for 30 years and it just hasn't happened yet. You know what I mean? It's just around, it's just easy. It works, and people still use it and they still open it.
You just give me, you play me a ball, like maybe we want to talk a little bit about owned marketing and the marketing that you do on other on the social media that it's not yours and they can block you at any point and you lose everything.
Well, yeah. So your neck is on their platform. It was actually a friend of mine, not a client, where she was a great influencer, and then she started her own business, okay, an e-com business, and she started totally on Instagram, all right. And I said, you should probably not. I didn't offer to build her website. She was a friend, you know what I mean? So, and she's not like our kind of common customer in any case. So I said, you should put it on a website and then start working that way. She's like, no, I'm really good at Instagram and blah, blah, I have a huge following personally. And she launches her store, and it starts doing really well. And then one day the traffic just goes to zero. And then lo and behold, Instagram's like, hey, you want to buy some ads? And she was furious. She was angry.
Really?
And then I was like, why are you angry? She's like, why? I was like, it's not your platform. It's not a public good. It's not a government. All right. It's a private company, they can do whatever they want. It's like Twitter. Oh, they violated free speech and kicked Donald Trump off or whatever. Okay. So what? They're a private company, right? Okay. It doesn't apply to them. It's now one guy owns Twitter, right? And he can do whatever he wants. He could say, Pavel, I don't want you on there, and kick you off, right? He could do anything. You can build your entire career in business on Twitter. And, Elon Musk might, maybe he doesn't feel good that day or he's just bored. And then he'll just say, oh yeah, kick this motherfucker off here, right? So, and it's the same with, so you don't own those traffic, right? It's traffic you don't own, which is, it's always, you're at the mercy of the wind, right? Kind of, and maybe your rudder works, maybe it's not working on your boat, right? And you're at their mercy, right? So you don't own that traffic, and they can do whatever they want. Whereas if you have your own website, it's somebody eventually kind of owns that, right? There's servers and whatnot that can kick you off and do whatever they want, but not really, not as much, right? So you own it, right? Whoever comes to you, and of course, the one that you truly own is the email, right? You have an email, okay? There's not a lot of ways to ban people even from using email, even if they wanted to, right? Okay, somebody will accept you, right? And you own it, you own your list, and then you can send them whatever they want. They're free to open it, free to junk you, free to do whatever they want. You own that list. What you want to do more than anything in the world when it comes to running your business is building your own list. What you own, right? Who is your target customer? And absolutely everything you can imagine about them, everything about them, right? Okay, forget some of the their income and this and that. And I'm not talking about that. That's like the old school one. I know what are their desires? What are their fears? What do they hate? What do they love? What are they complaining about when they get on Facebook and they're like, oh, screw this, or screw, what are they? Why are they complaining? What can you solve for them? All right. Yeah, they want to make more money. Why do they want to make more money? Because they want to work less. Why do they want to work less? Because they want to go fishing, right? You know what I mean? You start peeling back the layers, and then you're like, okay, all this guy wants to do is fish, all right? And how can my product help this guy fish? Okay. Whereas the first layer, you'd say, oh, this guy just wants more leads or sales or money. You know what I mean? But you dig deeper, and then once you talk to this person and you spend the time, instead of the spray and pray, let's just spray it. Okay. Once you spend the time and that person knows that that you understand that, oh, somebody's listening to me. All I want to do is go fishing, right? They'll be your customer for life. You know what I mean? So, but it's long, hard, boring research to do that. But once you own, like you own that platform, your own platform, you can do anything you want.
It's a hell of a job, isn't it? Like you have to have your email list, but you have to get the email list first. So how you get the email
Yep.
list? So let's say you do the profiling, you profile the customers, and you know who they are. Then you have to get them to the website to capture their email, and on the
Correct.
website you have to convince them that you are the person they should do the business with you, or that you have something to offer. Yeah. And then you have to have the email system, uh,
Yep.
Mailchimp, ConvertKit. There are bunch of things, and then you have to create a content for that also. So you create
You
basically
do.
content like the blog posts, SEO things, website work, and then the email marketing. So this is the best system you
Look,
can
there's.
have, but
Mhm.
it's like years to create this, isn't it?
uh, I'm forgetting who said this. All right, and I love saying it. All right, I heard it on a podcast, and then I looked it up, and somebody said this. There's no secrets in life, just hard work. And I'm not saying
Mm.
like all these other people out there, like, oh, if you're a failure, it's that you didn't work hard enough. No, there's a lot of luck involved in life, right? You know what I mean? Uh, Now, doing a lot of hard work uh, makes you or increases your probability of being lucky in the first place, right? You have to, kind of spread your bets in order to find the luck, to get lucky and then work hard. But you still have to do long, hard work, like you said, you know what I mean? And you just have to put in the reps, you know what I mean? You're doing like whatever, I did like 50 cold calls and, everybody hung up on me. I didn't get anyone's information. And, go do 500, right? Because
Mm.
trust me, there's people out there doing 500, right? I don't have the time. Well, if you don't have the time to go find a customer, right? What are you spending your time on, right? You know what I mean? Uh, what are you doing? And then go work for a company, go do something else. You know what I mean? Like, go work in a cubicle if you want, and it's not for everybody, right? To starting your own business, but you have to be obsessed about finding your own customer, doing the hard work. Like you just said, you just listed the steps. It's hard, right? To find them. If it was easy, everybody would have done it, and then there's no more opportunity in it. It's like it got arbitraged away, right? Once the cat's out of the box, or you know what I mean? Uh,
Well,
it's
the thing is that the clean tech companies, or like the manufacturers or inventors of some tools, they have to worry all about their product, and at the same time all of these things that we are discussing. Yeah. And it could be scary sometimes, like just too much work to do. Why cannot be easier? So let's hire this agency, run the ads, and that's it.
well, the dustbin of history has a lot of amazing products, right? I mean, look at just the most famous cliche one. Look at Tesla himself, right?
Mm.
Nikola Tesla, right? You look at this guy's biography, and you're like, oh my god, you know what I mean? He's just crushing it in terms of inventing, improving on all these things, and he didn't make a penny in his life, I think, right?
Mm.
Uh, so you can have all these great products and all these things, but if that's all you spend your time on, right, then no one's going to use it, right? You know what I mean? So that's the problem. You know what I mean? Uh, yeah, this is not my epiphany. Certainly, people have repeated this, millions of times out there. But very rarely does the inventor ever go on to lead the company to great success, right?
Mm.
You get it to a certain level, and then you just need a quote unquote a professional, right? Somebody that knows how to run and sell the company and do all this other stuff, because the inventor usually wants to, the engineer just doing what he does or she does best, right? So it's a ton of hard work. Like, the deck is stacked against you when you're this brand new kind of cutting edge startup or whatever, what you focus on, clean tech company. And it's hard, right? It's very hard. So you're trying to get noticed, you're trying to get sales, you're trying to improve your product at the same time. You're dealing with a million issues. It's hard, so that's why the ones who are successful, it's a big payoff for them once they crack that nut.
Yeah, hard work. That's what's gonna be in the next episode with Bruno, my friend who started his company, and want to talk with him a lot about the pain of entrepreneurship, because people are saying on this social media, "Oh, it's so easy," but the opposite is true. Like,
Look,
it's
I think
not easy.
a lot of people saying, especially a younger generation. I don't want to sound like, oh, like some maybe old guy, right? But let's say the younger generation, that's the the people that are about a decade older than us. I'm 40, so you're talking about people in their 30s, 20s, probably more like it, and they see kind of like influencers, YouTube stars, and whatnot, and they say, "Oh, look, it's easy. How can if this guy can do this, I can do that, right?" All these other people that they're looking at put in a ton of work. They put in an unbelievable amount of work, right? You know what I mean? Even somebody that's not your focus at all or mine or whatever. Somebody, if you've heard of him, like Mr. Beast, right, on YouTube. My kids will watch it, and he has these crazy videos, does all this like random stuff. He spends millions, not hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars on each video. You'll watch it and you'll be like, oh, it's a cool video. You won't have an idea that this cost him $2 million to produce and make,
Wow.
right? And it took him weeks and hours and every little aspect of that video, from the producing it, from the idea to the production to the little like the little cover on YouTube, how it looks and whatnot, and then everything, and marketing it and getting it out there. Every little piece is studied and detailed and tested and retested, and it's a lot of work that goes into it, so and that's the beauty of people that are really, really successful, right? They make it look easy. Like he makes it look easy. Michael Jordan made it look easy. All these people make it look easy. You know what I mean? When you look at Steve Jobs, to use an example, oh, it just comes to him. It's just easy. No, it's not, right? They make it look like that, right?
Yeah.
But you peel it back a little, there's just tons of turmoil. There's huge, huge trade-offs for that, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's not easy.
Tell me, there is a good and bad SEO agencies, marketing agencies, well, design companies also. But if I want to hire a good SEO company, what should I look for? How should I be prepared for hiring that? And how can I recognize a good SEO company?
I guess first of all, it's communication. They have to be good communicators. And that's a very cliche answer, and people kind of roll their eyes when I say that. Like, yeah, of course, yeah. There's a lot of people out there that are super confident, and they're like, hey, if you're talking to me, you're lucky. My time is worth whatever, $500, a minute, an hour, whatever, to talk to me. This is our deal. Take it or leave it. Sometimes it's good to leave it. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that people don't do that, can't deliver. That's fine, right? But you want somebody you can talk to, especially when it comes to something like SEO. A lot of people, even once they start SEO and they've been pitched and the proposal's been given to them and they watch videos and presentations, they still don't understand what's going on, right? They're getting this build, like, is it working? Is it not? Because, we talked about this earlier. It's not a light switch. It takes months. And if it's really, really competitive industry, it could take years to actually start making a dent, right? Like, remember, because Google first has to kind of, quote unquote, like your site, and then you have to beat out all your competitors too, right? Who are also working their butts off trying to get there. You know what I mean? So it's this race. So communication, to have that open communication, usually a good rule of thumb is you want to talk to the guy that's actually doing it. I know a lot of firms kind of separate it. There's the sales guy, and then once the guy pitches you and says, oh, here you go, blah blah blah, here you go, Pavel. Yeah, thanks for joining us. And they, he's pitched you, he's done his job, passes you to somebody you've never heard of, you've never really met, right? And they start like, who is this guy? Can I have a call with you? And they're like, I'm busy or whatever. You want to talk to these people, right? SEO is very personal, right? They have to, if they're doing good SEO, they're getting into the weeds in what you do. So if the first one is communication, the second one to look out for is cookie cutter. All right. There's a lot of them out there, and it's good business, I guess, for them. They're saying, hey, join me. All right. I promise to give you, 2 backlinks and one piece of content and this and that every single month. Okay, fine, right? It's like this cookie cutter. They have this like kind of menu. For $1,000 a month you get this, for 2,000, for 3,000, and it's very specific pieces of content, right? Like, you're gonna get this many and this many and this many. Well, that doesn't work for everybody, right? If you're a clean tech company, or if you're a company selling potatoes, you don't have the same strategy at all, right? You don't need, the guy selling potatoes, maybe he didn't need that much content, right? Okay, and maybe they don't need that many backlinks. It varies. All right, so anyone giving you bad communication, anyone doing something that's cookie cutter, one size fits all, and sometimes it's hard until after you already start with them. But a good question to ask is obviously how often am I in communication? What do my progress reports look like? Can I speak to you in between my progress report? You know, can we have a call between that? Not just, I don't want to get one like report at the end of the month and then, you know, okay, I guess, you know, how do you interpret it? Another thing is the reports. If they're just sending you a bunch of Excel sheets and Google Sheets, fine. If the guy or girl you're speaking to is a very technical person, like at a corporation, sometimes, you know, they have their own kind of head of SEO who just outsources everything. And that's all they want to look at. Oh, I want to look at my keyword rankings. I want to look at, you know, our position, our traffic, our, you know, conversions. Okay. A lot of business owners, they don't want to look at that. They're like, hey, what did you do? You know, okay, traffic. Okay. Maybe I want traffic. No, I want sales. Right. Okay. You know, how many people actually, you know, found my site organically and then converted to a sale? You want to ask them for specific case studies of that thing. Okay, depending what you're looking for. So whatever your goal is, you want to collect emails, fine. You want to people to watch your video, fine. You want people to book an inquiry with you or book a call. You want them to purchase your product. Whatever your use case is or end goal is, they have to know about it and they have to be good at it, right? And they have to prove that they're good at it to show you that this is what we do. So that's another one, you know. So there's communication, no good communication, no cookie cutter, and obviously the reporting is a big one. Okay, that you can have regular contact and communication with them, and that it's not just a bunch of technical jargon. And I guess one final one is kind of a warning sign that you can find out beforehand is like, oh, how do you do your SEO? And they're like, oh, we have this tool, this magic tool that we put everything into, right? And we have to update that tool and keep that tool maintained, but it does everything for you. No, it doesn't. There's no tool out there that does it yet, right? And the tools that SEOs do use, that we use, are all estimates. Okay, it gives you an estimate of what's going on, but it's not the Bible. You can't take it to the bank, right? So if they say, oh, we have this great magic tool, always be wary of that, right? You know, because if they did have that magic tool, they wouldn't be talking to you, right? Let's put it that way, you know, unless you're like, you know, publicly listed, you know, multi-billion-dollar company.
Would you give me like 3 questions you can ask to hire SEO agencies that will recognize if they're bullshitters?
Yeah. So you say, okay, I want a specific SEO strategy for my company. Okay, so that's what you ask for. Okay, if they're not willing to do that, then just go look for somebody else. You know, oh, we're too good for that. Don't worry, we're cookie cutter. So you ask them, I want this. Okay, am I going to be dealing with you? Whoever you're asking the question with, am I dealing with you? Oh no, you're going to be dealing. Okay, you're not going to be. I'm not going to be dealing with you. Okay, let me deal with the other guy. All right, who you're going to pass me on to. Okay, so that'd be the second one, and you know, I guess the third one is kind of like a good one to ask. What I would ask is, like you said, it goes back to first. It's do you understand what my business does? Do you really understand what my business does? Okay, it's you know, there's some SEOs that are great at ecom, and that's all they do, right? You know, if you went to them for anything else, they'd say no, right? We're experts at this. That's pretty good too. You know what I mean? Ones that are in a niche, say, you know, so you ask them, do you have a specific niche? Some don't. Doesn't mean they're bad, right? But you know, some just do absolutely anything and everything. So, you know, just it's not rocket science, right? So if they're trying to throw a bunch of jargon at you to explain what they're doing, that's also kind of a warning sign.
Yeah, I found out it's a pretty big deal with a niche, like you know or you don't know. And in our line of work, like printed electronics, you know, hiring copywriter for doing a copy on the website for printed electronics, man, that can go really wrong, you know.
Absolutely, you cannot hire a generalist for that, right? You know, you can get somebody if they're really good, you can get a part of the way there. You know, like we write content for a lot of people, right? But we have a network, you know, of writers, you know, who are experts in their field, right? So if somebody says, "Oh yeah, okay, I need a article on printed electronics," you know, I'm not going to give it to the guy who wrote about plastic surgery last week, right? You know, for another client, you know what I mean? It's, you know, if you're paying somebody to go Google something and then, you know, come up with this general blog post, right? Then That's not what you're paying for, right? You know what I mean? I could do that. Yeah,
Well,
anyone can do that.
ChatGPT can do that, yeah.
ChatGPT can do that now,
Yeah.
exactly, right? So if you're paying somebody for that, you might as well put a ChatGPT one up. It'll be quicker, and it probably be better.
Yeah. Yeah, we discussed the ChatGPT.
Yeah,
What?
look, that's the way the world's going. It's on everybody's mind, and everybody's using it. So
Hmm.
uh,
I
that's the future.
literally built a online business over in 2 hours last weekend using ChatGPT, some components, new libraries in Webflow that I wanted to test, and stock photography. If I would use even Midjourney, it would be original photography also. I just don't have a subscription for that yet. I already have
Yeah.
practice for it, but it could be like it's so fast. It's so fast, And I wanted to put it there. I wrote 2 articles in there and see how I get ranked, and we'll see in a month whatever will happen with that.
Yeah,
It's
look,
very interesting.
it's a misconception to say that, a lot of people say, oh, Google or other search engines will downrank or penalize your AI article. They won't, right? If it's good, they will promote it. If you, or not you, if you entered a great prompt, got a great article, refined it through prompting, even if it only took you 15 minutes, if it's a good article, Google will rank it because it's a good article, a quote unquote good piece of content is one that is helping the user. If it's AI generated or human generated, Google doesn't care. It's serving the user, right? That's what they want at the end of the day. So just because something's AI, whereas in the beginning, definitely, Google was not happy with AI. Said, no, we're going to downrank, right? Okay. Now they said, no, we're not going to downrank AI. It just has to be good. And unfortunately, today, the articles that ChatGPT puts out are not quote unquote good, right? It'll get you there. It'll get you somewhere, But like you said, the building a business in 2 hours. It's the scale and speed at what you can do things today is unbelievable.
But I would have to give a disclaimer. I mean, I built this in 2 hours because I know Webflow. I'm on very professional level. I know some basics of SEO. I know how the web design structure should work like. I cannot imagine somebody who never touched Webflow design SEO could do that in 2 days, probably. So
Probably not.
probably
It's
not.
like a lot of those videos. It's a lot of those videos like, oh, look what I did with it. You know what I mean? And a lot of
Yeah.
people, especially because you know how to code as well. So a lot of those people that like, oh, look, it coded all this and this and this. It's like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
It didn't spit out like anyone that knows code is like, no, no, no. That's you can't use that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it gets you somewhere, right? Okay, but it's hard, right? You know what I mean? So we just said earlier, you, Pavel, working with ChatGPT can create something nice and usable, right? Whereas somebody that is not a subject matter expert can't. All right, that's just where we are today. Will it change tomorrow? I don't know, maybe, right? But somebody that isn't, you know what I mean? There's even talk about kind of copywriting and prompts. Like you came up with an awesome prompt that and the output was fantastic, right? And you took a lot of work and effort to get the prompt right, right? You know what I mean? Because at the end
Yeah.
of the day, a lot of people kind of personalize the Chat GPT. It's not a person; it's a machine learning, right? It's not lying to you; it's bullshitting. It's just giving you spitting out everything, based on probabilities and whatnot. So when you come up with a great prompt and it gives you a great answer, there's a lot of talk about, hey, well, Pavel should get paid for that prompt every time somebody uses it. It's his. So just coming up with that is difficult.
So people will be paid by copywriting prompts to put into the ChatGPT.
Possibly. I mean, there's talk about that, right? Because there's also talk about well, ChatGPT. Well, forget ChatGPT for a second. You spoke about Midjourney and the other kind of generative AI tools out there, right? There's Stable Diffusion, which is now being sued by Getty Images, right? Because Stable Diffusion was trained on everybody's images, and then Getty was able to find that it was specifically trained on Getty Images as well, right? Because when you ask it to produce a certain image, and then it kind of had the weird almost Getty image logo
Yeah,
on
yeah,
it,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. And so Getty's like, hey, we never agreed to this. We paid photographers all around the world for this, and we marketed it. Like, we never agreed for this to be included, right? And now Stable Diffusion is kind of, I guess, trying to do an opt out, but it's already trained, so I don't know if you can opt out. So will it be the same thing with ChatGPT, where somebody's like, hey, I spent a lot of time creating this content, right? You know, like, you have content that you created yourself. Is ChatGPT reading, you know, Carpy's content and then incorporating that into its outputs, and therefore people can bypass even looking at your site or your blog post or whatever, you know what I mean, and providing it? Is that wrong? Is that right? Should Carpy get a royalty from that because it used your effort and output as a service, which it's charging other people for, you know, or just recently started charging, right? So it starts getting a little tricky on how to figure these things out, right?
And there has been a lot of, because my background was in the blockchain also, there was a lot of discussion about this in back a few years ago, like how we should do the royalties with like pieces of contents. This is very interesting. Question is,
look, it definitely is. It definitely is. You know what I mean? To see where it goes. You know, there's some people that saying, okay, this it's the end of Google search, right? You know.
Before that, before that, I wanted to ask you one thing, which is, what do you think, like ChatGPT, it's harvesting all of these contents, or AI is harvesting these contents on the internet? Can you imagine a ChatGPT it's running for 2-3 years like this, spitting the content, people are adopting it on Google, and they connect ChatGPT to the internet again and start to reuse its own bullshit? And again and again, in 10 years, we are completely living in illusion, or
idiocracy, as they say. You know, we just went down, right? Yeah, like, yeah. I mean, yeah, that'd be funny actually. You create this loop, right? You know, which you know, I mean, look, it's not far off. Obviously, we can theorize about these things. You know what I mean? When you connect it, reconnect it, and what it's reading, and is it using its own outputs? At least I hope it's not using its own outputs, right? You know what I mean? Because there's still a lot of mistakes. You know, you ask it to quote, you know, 5 quotes of Albert Einstein. You know, it'll give you 3 out of 5. You know, it might give you 5 out of 5 sometimes. You don't know, right? You're just like, oh, did he really say that? Then you have to go look it up on Google or whatever, you know, to see if that was really the case. So, yeah, it's gonna be a learning curve.
So it's the end of Google?
Not yet, at least. You know, it's hard to put it, and even for me to grasp it, or anybody that knows it, just how large and how big and how complex a task Google does every day. Okay, so yes, ChatGPT can give me some really good answers to some really good questions, right? But you know, I want to go buy a pair of Air Jordans. Where am I going to go with that with ChatGPT, right? No, okay, it's no, you're not. Obviously, people say you have to go look for it. You know what I mean? The other day, my wife, she has some vocal cord issues. You know, she sings a bit and whatnot, and then, you know, also screaming at the kids. You know, contributed to, well, and she went and saw a doctor, then came back. You know, the doctor told her to do all these kind of things and this kind of therapy and whatnot. And so I went online and I looked for like home remedy, you know, for vocal cord issues. You know, okay. Now I asked first Google ChatGPT, and it gave me, you know, oh, do this or do that and whatnot. But since I know, based on previous history, that it can bullshit sometimes, not lie. There's a difference between lying and bullshitting, right? Lying is it's intentionally or premeditated to deceive you, right? Bullshitting is just you're making it up. You know, it has all this information and you're just spouting shit, right? You know what I mean? We all bullshit sometimes. You know, you know, sometimes intentionally, sometimes most likely unintentionally. So I then went to Google and then typed in the same thing. You know what I mean? Home remedies for, you know, vocal cord issues. Healthline, like that huge like blog. Look at that. Reddit. Okay, that's kind of cool. Then WebMD was next. Looked at Web, and then finally Mayo Clinic. I was like, oh, Mayo Clinic. They're, you know, huge, very well respected, you know, clinic in America, and that was enough for me. Yeah, I went to 3 websites. I looked at it, and I felt good. And I'm trying to say this in an unbiased way because, you know, obviously SEOs, you know, we make our money off of Google, right? You know what I mean? Getting you ranked there, right? But there's certain use cases where it's great and it's not, right? So I think Bing and Google have got the right idea. Well, not necessarily, they have no other idea because the majority of their revenues, both of them are ads, right? So the way, if you've seen their presentations, when they presented it, it's the search bar, it's the chat GPT, or for Google, it's Bard, what they're calling it, snippet, and then it's the results, right? And that's kind of the best way that that I think too. I like that where, it's here, you're searching for something, the chat GPT gives you the snippet, and then you start looking for, through the other search results, right? Because if all websites just go away, or sorry, not go away, but if they just eliminate all websites, okay, and just give you that search bar and the chat GPT, OpenAI is reading the entire web, right? The entire internet. And if no one's coming to my site anymore, whatever it is, I could be a business, I could be a blog, I could be whatever, because they're all just on ChatGPT getting the answers directly, I'm not going to publish anything anymore. Well, why am I putting effort? I get zero traffic, right? Well, I'm going to stop publishing content. You're going to stop. We all stop publishing content, right? And I mean, this is not my epiphany, obviously. Other people much smarter than me have said this. You get to the point where, okay, if there's less relevant content or less websites, OpenAI has less data to scrape, and to absorb. Its data set is smaller and it's less relevant, okay, because it's not up to date or whatever, because people are publishing less. So you would think, obviously, that the output would start suffering because it's not giving you relevant content, because it's reading the internet. It can't just come up with content. It has to read it, analyze it, and then, predict that, giving you the highest probable answer to what you're searching for, right? Okay. But it needs that data set. And if that data set starts shrinking, which is websites, okay, then at some point it's like what you said, or then you go into this loop where it's like it gets worse, actually, not better, right? It starts getting worse. So there will be a place for search. I think, is it going to be Google? I don't know. For now, it's really hard for us to imagine things that are different from search, because that's how we discover things. Okay. But right now we just don't have a better solution, right? You just need so much resources to conduct search and to do it and to get discovered and to find your solution. You know what I mean? So like I said, I think they have the right idea with their proposed solution, which, by the way, they both did like equally as good. I mean, I know everyone kind of shat on Google and they're like, oh, Bing won that 1-0, but Bing actually made a bigger mistake in their presentation. There was more factual errors in ChatGPT's output than Bard's, actually. But people said, "Oh, Bard got it wrong," about the telescope and all that stuff. When I forgot what the question they asked it was, but their AI got it wrong. That they said, but it actually didn't. Bing's did, but
Yeah, we were talking about the end of Google, but there is not only Google in the search. There is Bing, there is DuckDuckGo, there is this Russian one, which I don't remember what's called, and
Yandex, the one where the algorithm was leaked recently.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, do you optimize things for Google only, or for all of the
We do it for all
engines?
of them. We do it for all of them. Okay, but typically now, if it's specific that they want on other search engines, then we'll work on it. Like, nobody does it for Yandex. People always say this. We'll make you searchable on Google, Bing, Yandex, and others. Nobody does Yandex, right? It's a smaller market. You know what I mean? Depending on, at least for our clients, right? You know what I mean? In let's call it, Europe or Western Europe. Sorry, Australia and North America, right? So, but yeah, now that is Bing going to take a slice out of Google? It might. We have to wait for Google to see what they do, because people forget Google's been working on their own version of ChatGPT. There's many different names, much longer than OpenAI. All right. And if you can go Google it and read about it, it's awesome what they're coming up with, right? Like to the degree where it's like the way they're incorporating it, but they have a problem. Obviously, if it bullshits too much, then people get angry. And OpenAI is this kind of young, scrappy startup. Okay, Google is this old, lumbering, and publicly listed company, so they have a lot more liability when it bullshits. Other than OpenAI, they're just like, yeah, it's new, get over it. Whereas Google can't say that. Everyone's shitting on it, and governments are like, oh, how dare you bullshit, our people. So maybe does Bing take a little bit of market share? Yeah, I could see that happening. obviously, but Google's been working on some really cool stuff. If you're saying, hey, what are the shoes that this climber was wearing on Mount Everest? Oh, he was wearing these shoes. What did he think of those shoes? And then it looks up like the guy reviewed the shoes. Okay. Can I also use the same shoes in Mount Kilimanjaro, which is very different? Yeah, you can use it in Mount Kilimanjaro. So what I just said for people that only understand what they think, oh yeah, so what, Ghazi, right? It's really, really, really cutting edge and complicated. I just had a full conversation like I would have with you, right?
Yeah.
Except I'm asking it about a specific climber. Yeah, he's famous and he has content, right? And what shoes was he wearing? So I found out what shoes he was wearing. Did he think the shoes were good or not? Yes. And I'm not going to climb Mount Everest. I'm actually going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa. Could I use the same shoes he did, and would they work? And so it has to take the climate data, you know, what and maybe what time of year. You know, I'm thinking of going to Mount Kilimanjaro in October, right? You know what I mean? It takes all this data and it spits out an answer and says, yeah, you can go buy these shoes here. Google has something like that right now. Like, it's crazy. It has it, right? You know,
Wow.
this is like stuff. Yeah, it's absolutely mind blowing, right? They have it right now, and I'm not, you know, I just talked a lot about how Google's like this big evil company right earlier, you know, so I'm not sitting there trying to promote them, right? You know, I work with the system, but it's unbelievable, right? You know what I mean? And a bunch of the other big corporations too, which, you know, have pretty close, really good ones too. And OpenAI was supposed to be this open source one, and so it doesn't become evil and blah blah blah, and corporations don't own it. And then of course, OpenAI, once they started seeing like, oh shit, we can make a ton of money off of this, then they're like, oh yeah, we're not open source anymore, guys. So you know, someone will come along and make it open source though. It'll happen, right? You know, as much as corporations want to hang on to it.
I would like to discuss more on that, but we are already 1 hour and a half. So let's plan it for the next time. Let's plan the future of Google, future of search and their AI tools, and how the SEO will work for them. That would be a very interesting topic. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I think it would. I think that, you know, there's a ton of AI tools, especially your kind of market and your kind of clients could get a lot of use out of. And there's so many of them out there. And it's something that we keep track of as well, because like we want to use these tools too. So we could definitely discuss that.
All right. Ghazi, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, first guest.
first guest.
Yeah, first guest for a podcast. Yeah, no, it's awesome. I'm really happy for you guys. You know what I mean? I've been, you know, seeing what you guys have been up to, you know, especially over the last year. The push you make, the work you guys do is awesome. You know, so more power to you guys.
Thank you so much.